29-2A is available. Seeing no one, let us move on to the next speaker. I would go to the official opposition in the rotation. If not, let us move on to the honourable member for Edmonton Calder.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to certainly support this hoist motion. I think that it's probably the best idea. We saw a lot of very heightened, I think, emotions yesterday, and I think we've seen quite a lot of poor decision-making on a leadership level in regards to how this PC government has handled this situation. I think it's very important when you do have a very large, changing, pluralistic society, and you have a considerable majority, that you exercise that majority with caution. Because if you do in fact revert back to old sort of muscle memory in how you always had governed and behaved as a ruling party, then sometimes that's inappropriate. And we had a very sensitive situation here, a very symbolic situation where we're not just talking about gay-straight alliances, we're talking about the capacity for a majority government to govern for everybody. And so on that very large level, I thought we saw a categorical failure here yesterday, Mr. Speaker. And, you know, and I'm speaking as constructively as possible on this, too, because I know what the reality is here in this province. I wasn't born yesterday. I know that we have a situation where there's a very strong conservative virtual one-party state that's existed and has exerted its control over this party for this province for many, many decades. And so we're not going to change that wholesale overnight, but we certainly do need, and we can change the way by which that very large power is exerted over all of the citizens here in this province. And, so we're not just fighting for gay-straight alliances here, we're fighting for the capacity of people to make reasonable assertions that are in the best interests of both mental health and societal health, and reflect the values that are changing rapidly in our province without having to be heavy-handed and mean-spirited. And so, Mr. Speaker, as you were as well, I was a teacher for more than 20 years, and I looked at this as a very succinct teaching moment. I taught for 20 years, absolutely. And I always look for teaching moments. I still consider myself to be a teacher. And so it's not just having a legal space for someone to form a gay-straight alliance in a school or a school board or a place that maybe they are opposing that at some administrative level. But this is also a way to teach every single person who pays attention to this issue about equality and social justice and the capacity to accommodate for differences in our society. And so you say, well, we changed 11.1 in this act, and we made adjustments here, and that's all good. I mean, I'm not opposed to the evolutionary process of reform as well, but just as strongly, the undercurrent of message here, the subtext of a message that was presented here was that we will use and employ legal power and just raw political power to compromise the clarity of our commitment to gay-straight alliances, and so that some schools are not, or school boards can continue to either tacitly or explicitly exclude gay-straight alliances from their jurisdictions, from the schools in which they are responsible for, and business as usual, basically, right? And I just really find that a little bit not just offensive, but I think, as I said before, missing that opportunity to have that teaching moment. Because other people will look at that moment as well and say, well, the government pushed and shoved them. The PC government will always come down on the right, on the conservative right-wing side of things, and so we can always pull strings to make sure that we get what we want. if you are of that persuasion. And again, you know, that's not really good democracy. It's just people thinking that they have a government in their back pocket, that the right-wing side of the equation can be tilted at any time, and you know, we can make the deal, we can make it happen like we want it to be. And that's not fair, because I would say that Bill 10 reflects the values and the desires of quite a small minority, actually, here in the province of Alberta. Not even explicitly in regards to gay-straight alliances, but explicitly in terms of a live and let live attitude, and a sort of a libertarian idea that people can mind their own business and the government has no business in regards to being discriminatory towards one's sexuality and other things like that. In 2014, that is a predominant majority sentiment in societies such as ours. And so again, this bill 10, sort of hastily cobbled together for more political reasons than actual practical reasons, is out of step with the vast majority of how Albertans feel and the attitudes that they share with themselves and with their families. So yeah, of course people can have their own religious views on things, they can have their own society and cultural views on things, but you don't have discriminatory views on things and think that we can actually enshrine those in law. And so I think that's a message we should be sending out of this legislature, Mr. Speaker, and that's not really explicitly what we're doing here. We know that on a sociological level, on a school-wide level, in terms of a teaching level, that these sort of peer support groups are very, very important. And we learned over a long period of time that peer support and student-initiated ways of teaching things and helping each other are the most effective teaching tools of all. And when I heard the honourable member from Edmonton Centre on the radio yesterday, time flies when you're having fun, so to speak, and you used the word peer support over and over again. I thought that was so incredibly appropriate, looking at this as from a pedagogical standpoint and from a teaching moment, right? And I know for a fact that student-initiated direction in these things is just so much more powerful than anything that a teacher can come up with. Right? I can come up with a social justice club or something like that, and I've done it before in teaching in the past, and you know, was it student-initiated? Well, it became that after a while, but it started out with me, right? And so, you know, I was treading against the water and paddling against upstream, and it wasn't effective. But when the kids come up with something like a social justice club or democratic elections for student council and stuff like that, it takes off like wildfire, and it becomes a much wider teaching opportunity, right? And so with GSAs, a student-led, I mean, it's not like we're mandating, I know that this has been another subtext which is so wrong on this whole debate, is that, you know, we're going to make a law forcing people to have gay-straight alliances in schools. Well, you know, I don't think so, right? If the students want to organize one, then yeah, then they can do so, right? They can do so, and we will protect them to allow them to do so. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the choice that somebody makes, I heard it earlier this afternoon, to have a gay-straight alliance in a school doesn't affect other people, and nor should they stick their noses into that, quite frankly, right? I mean, and if there's some teachers that don't like it, or there's some administrators that don't like it, or school board or whatever, well, too bad, you know? I mean, it's not as though you have a GSA that is otherwise imposing their will on the school. You're having a peer support network in a club that people can choose to join or not join, you know? And so there's nothing, I mean, sort of subversive about that, and in fact it's very progressive, and you know, it's reflecting a cultural phenomenon that we're seeing in schools over the last number of years. Like I said, really, I haven't been teaching now for, you know, full-time for a decade, since I've been a legislator and so forth, but you know, it's happened during that time frame. When I left teaching full-time, they weren't around, GSAs, and now they are, as I think the minister had tabled today, at least in 94 schools around the province, and growing fast. And most of those are all in places where the school board has given that space to encourage GSAs. If they don't, then people are scared. I mean, you know, it's authority, and people exert their authority through school board tacitly or explicitly to, you won't see GSEs in a place where school board says no. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's not like kids are equipped with legal advice and lawyers in their back pocket. I mean, you know, that's a phenomenon that is very rare and very expensive too, right? I mean, for someone to actually challenge a school board to allow a GSA would be at least $25,000, $35,000, I would say, to do a mount a legal challenge. And so, I mean, that's a pretty rarefied world that whoever came up with that idea lives in. The Premier, perhaps, I don't know, that you think you can have legal counsel at your beck and call and $30,000 to, you know, to go for a legal challenge, right? I mean, that's what we do here in the legislature, is make those laws so they don't have to have this mixed up, convoluted sort of legal conflicts on a basic human right. So, Mr. Speaker, that's my feeling on this. Certainly, I have, you know, we have talked a lot already about the sociological benefits of these GSAs, and it's very interesting how it's been tracked. I've been really quite amazed, really, how successful it's been in schools, and how much more widespread it could be if we allow that space to continue here through the legislation and the legislature. So, based on that, I certainly support this hoist for now, and you know, I don't judge people on a single issue. I judge them on an accumulation of their actions over time, and certainly I know that there's some good people over on this side that would like to see us do the right thing. I'm surprised, and very happily surprised, to see the public reaction on this, and it's not just a reaction on gay-straight alliances. It's a reaction, like I said from the outset of my comments, on the capacity for a large majority Conservative government to exert fair and equitable legislation that doesn't discriminate and appear heavy-handed towards minorities. And so, you know, that's part of why I was so upset yesterday, and I still kind of am today. But I mean, I also know that there's lots of good people over the other side that will concur with that idea and will vote appropriately, I'm sure. So, I mean, this is not a threat, right? I know I can smell some threatening language over there, and that's not the way we should conduct ourselves, right? I don't think, you know. I often think of that Shakespearean line about thou dost protest too much, when I heard someone over there speaking very, very loudly, louder than you need to, if you're considering we're mics here, about how much they really love this political thing that's going on here, when in fact I know that they must be feeling very, very conflicted, considering you know, how this has all come out in the wash. So with those comments, Mr. Speaker, I certainly encourage everyone to support hoist. Thank you very much.